says we're live.
Don't I feel dumb? So, I found it. It gave it a whole different link. This is the technical issue of going live because I practice on the dry run, but live was different. Okay, so hey everyone, welcome to Disabled Wealthy right here on the Minnie on Cam YouTube channel. I'm your host, Minnie St. Clair, and I'm so thrilled you're here with us today. For far too long, the narrative around disability and money has been one of scarcity, limitations, and simply surviving. But here at Disabled Wealthy, we are breaking the status quo where 1 in 6 people with disabilities live in poverty, and poverty rates for people with disabilities remain twice as high as those without disabilities. We believe that financial empowerment, wealth building, and living a life of true freedom are not just dreams, but achievable realities for people with disabilities. This isn't just about maintaining benefits, it's about building a future where we thrive. And we're here to show how we can take charge of our disabled lives and decision-making power. If you're finding value in these conversations and want to support the work we do here at Disabled Wealthy, subscribe to the channel. You're also be a generous sponsor or giver by scanning the QR code to be generous and give. Your generosity makes a huge difference in powering episodes like this of Disabled Wealthy. Now, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce my incredible guest, Alison Hayes. Alison is a visionary leader in the United States disability community, a powerful voice dedicated to helping others not just cope, but truly thrive with their disabilities. She's the founder of Thriving While Disabled and has authored impactful books that redefine what's possible in the realm of financial autonomy and wealth building. Well-being for individuals with disabilities. Alison is truly a trailblazer in advocating for proactive approach to disabled well-being and financial empowerment. She openly shares her personal journey and empowers others to move beyond societal expectations of coping, actually working to shift the narrative and help individuals thrive. Alison, welcome to Disabled Wealthy.
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to be here. I'm just so excited.
I know, and I'm nervous, so this will work out really well. This will work out very well. Nervous and technical issues. Okay, so section 1, introduction and pivotal moment. Alison?
Yes. All right. So my journey with disability actually started when I was very young, but I didn't identify as disabled until I was in my early 20s. Basically, when I was about 3, I was diagnosed with a fine motor issue. They never gave any more detail than that. Originally, it was a gross motor. I was able to do a lot of like little PT that ended up having it down to fine motor issues. But throughout my life, I've had really not very readable handwriting. I got a lot of not great treatment about it. I had a mild learning disability and basically was marked as other in school because I was in the resource room and things like that. When I was 9, I got diagnosed with depression, major depressive disorder, started being treated for that. And then as an adult in college with the learning disabilities and the motor issues and managing the depression, I then was misdiagnosed as having anxiety, which 3 years later was finally properly diagnosed as functional neurological disorder. And due to my FND, I ended up having to apply for disability at 23. So, like, I've been through quite a journey with disability, and throughout all the earlier things, I just was like, okay, this is a struggle I have to handle, and this is something I have to figure out how to live with. And then I would, and I, get the tools I needed and move myself forward. The FND was very different because it's a stress responsive condition that specifically reacts to any form of stress, positive or negative. And I would end up with these movement symptoms that I could not control as a result of any and all stresses. So I had to just completely step back and kind of reboot my life. And I went through the process of applying for and getting on disability. Thriving While Disabled as a business came quite a while later after I had gotten on disability, worked part-time while on it, almost lost it, got back on, and then had my life partner go through not one but two life-altering injuries himself. The first one was while I was in graduate school. Because I did
Okay,
that.
Allison,
Yep.
breathe. I know it's very, very traumatic, and we've been talking for as best friends, but you could breathe because
I know.
you
I
jammed everything up in a very short
short
half
little
of
thing.
a breath.
Yep.
Breathe, because
I am.
this 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 is the most difficult topic we can have. It's the
Yep.
most public way we're doing it. It's also part of our business and how we make a
Yep.
living and how we educate the public and we
So
navigate the system and then we try to live a life of
it's a lot, but
yes.
yes. So I was trying to cram it in short because I know we've got a lot to cover.
We
But
do, but we can take our time. It is
okay.
fine. I've done this thing for 3 hours. It doesn't have to be 3 hours, but we have all the time we need to get it going because it took
Okay.
we're going.
So
So we
so
will
yeah,
slow down. So
slow it down. So
yeah.
yeah. So as like I said, as a kid, I got some bullying kind of experiences, but in general, I did not identify as disabled. I just was like, yeah, I'm different. How dare they be difficult? But I'm different. Let me move on. Um, my getting the FND, like I said, it really shifted things. And it took me years to really process it. The other thing that complicated it was I lost my father to a traumatic brain injury about 5 months after my diagnosis, about 5 months after my FND diagnosis, and shortly after I had lost two different jobs due to my FND symptoms.
Okay. So FND,
Functional
what
neurological disorder.
okay. So it's a neurological disorder
Yep. And
and
basically, what it is there's no many neurological conditions, they can point to something in the brain and saying, well, this doesn't work right, or this connection isn't the way it should be, or this chemical is imbalanced. Functional neurological disorder means you have the symptoms, but you don't have the physical cause that's associated with the symptoms. So, functional symptoms, like people with FND, it can be any one or more neurological symptoms, from functional blindness, where you can't see, to functional seizures, which are non-epileptic seizures. They're seizures, but they don't have the same brain activity as epileptic seizures do. It also can impact bodily control. My most common symptoms are movement symptoms, where some muscle or group of muscles in my body start doing unexpected things. It can be anything from my teeth chattering to my whole body rocking back and forth. to my legs collapsing out from under me. Any group of muscles in my body can be impacted.
And I imagine any of them that happen, you're pretty stuck in that moment until it's
Um,
over.
in that moment, but the other part of it is I usually can't predict that they'll happen, because the other part of the damage is that the part of the brain that sends the signal that causes the symptom doesn't notify the part of the brain that's aware of what the body's doing that it's happening.
Right.
So the closest analogy in like standard experience is that sense of knowing you're going to sneeze, but not being sure if you actually are going to sneeze or exactly when you're going to sneeze.
Right.
Sometimes my body will give me that much warning. Other times there's absolutely none whatsoever. And usually it gives me that warning when I'm doing something that could be, that my brain recognizes could be dangerous, like climbing stairs. However, my brain does not acknowledge walking, carrying hot things, or driving a car as potentially dangerous. So it's not super reliable either.
That, I mean, I remember with multiple sclerosis for me, I couldn't tell the difference between hot and cold.
Mhm.
And then now that stopped. And then I wash dishes. Either I'm too hot,
Mhm.
and then trying to make the water cold, I'm still too hot.
Mhm.
But it's not the same when I shower because showering, it's too cold. So washing dishes, I have to run the air conditioner and then not have the water too hot. But then you need the water hot to wash dishes because you want
Right.
them clean. So, but I remember like I wouldn't feel it was hot. I remember when I grabbed the meatball pan
Mm.
and my hand, I didn't feel, I heard a sizzle and then I realized it was too hot. So I imagine it's kind of the same as for
It's
you is certain things like, oh yes, this is dangerous, caution. Other times like, oh fuck, I forgot. Like,
kind of, except I'm not even that aware because
oh,
it's not I go and do something and then my body gives me a signal. It's I'm like I'm going to take a walk and and my right leg is not stepping when I expect it to. And so I'm dragging my leg behind me.
oh,
Or I'm walking normally and all of a sudden I'm high stepping with my knees coming up. And that's, I even had a move I refer to as the velociraptor. And I'm just walking along, and all I'm telling my brain is, let's keep walking. And all of a sudden, my arms pull up like I'm a little velociraptor, and one of my legs usually pulls up too. And that can be a little embarrassing when you're walking down the street, and all of a sudden you do the velociraptor.
yeah.
It's
I remember, yes, I was walking with someone from church. I slipped and fell forward, and
mm,
then I caught myself. And she's like, "Are you okay?" I go, "Yes, but this might happen again." I literally just told her it might happen again.
it,
So that is the beginning of
yeah.
you,
And
and
so I lost multiple jobs because of that, between me being unwilling to put myself in potentially dangerous positions and the symptoms themselves. I lost, I was viewed as less reliable and lost my positions.
even though they're not even you're reliable, just your body's unreliable.
Correct. Well, to put some context on it, I was working in biology. The first job I lost was I was doing basically I was helping with netting a species of bird and banding them.
Okay.
So I didn't want to be holding a bird in my hand because I was worried I would squish it.
Right. Like mice and men. Yes.
Yeah, I did not want to do that, especially because we're talking about an endangered species.
Right. And we
So
need we need to keep them not endangered. Yes. That
exactly.
would be the
Right.
main requirement of that job.
So like part
Yeah.
of it was how much time I missed because we were trying to figure out what was going on. I also was initially put on medications for seizures, which made me extra tired. And, they was like, just leave. I was like, okay then. I also got a job working for the National Marine Fisheries Service, helping with research on lobsters. And I was supposed to be doing some major, like, working with a lot of chemicals. And so part of my job was to clean glassware with substances that would get through nitrile gloves in 30 seconds and through rubber gloves in 30 seconds and nitrile gloves in 5 minutes. And so basically I would work for a while and then I'd be like, I need a twitch break, pull my gloves off, back into a corner and shake like mad for a few minutes, and then put on your gloves, go back in and work again for a while.
Well, I mean, that job of working with chemicals, chemicals have their own reaction.
Yes.
Then your body has this unscheduled reaction.
Correct. And so, like, that feeling a sneeze coming on, I would be like, okay, my body is tired of having to be really careful.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd feel that building up, take off the gloves, step back, have my symptoms, and go back in. But that wasn't super comforting to people. And there were other things that I was like, I can't do that because I don't want to I don't want to destroy the sample. I don't want to break this thing.
Yeah, you knew the requirement of the job, the responsibility of the job, and then your brain is over processing the responsibilities of the job. And then it's like, that's too much information. Let's have a spasm.
Yep.
And then you're trying to time it to not damage.
Right.
So, like, you were overly professional in every way if they just understood what that was.
Right. Now, another part of the problem was I didn't fully disclose because I had no idea how to do that or how to go about that process or how to protect myself.
Right. Which is
typical.
The hard part of employment and disability is, do you disclose? And then if you disclose, do they accommodate? And then if you don't disclose and they think you're lazy or uninterested or any label they'll put in as a reason to fire you, when no, if you said, can I talk to you for a minute in my office before I fire you to figure out what's going on? Which I've only had 2 jobs do that. Where one of them gave me time off, like on the job. And then after like an hour or 2, she's like, can you go back to work? I'm like, I can try. Like, it was, but I was still there. Like, I was not working because my brain couldn't, because I had a PTSD episode from the customer saying something to me.
Oh no.
And then the other one, I had a boyfriend and he injured himself while we were intimate. So I'm freaking out. He's in the hospital. He has to get stitches, has a lower member. And then the boss is like, you're not focused. What's happening? Well, I told him. And he's like, oh, that can break? I'm like, yeah, it can break. I'm trying to be like detailed and not detailed about what that was. But my brain couldn't focus. Like, my boyfriend injured himself in the morning. And then I need to go to work. And then you want me to answer the phone to talk to people about their phone packages and add services or explain why they called the 900 number 22 times on their phone bill. Yeah, but those are the only 2. Like, yes, it's funny. The job of the boss asking me what happened because I wasn't focused. He also eventually fired me, but didn't ask why. Like, it was just really weird of how they give you like a one-time leeway of messing up, and then the other time's like, well, this is just a pattern. I'm like, no, it's not a pattern. It's PTSD, anxiety, and impulse issues from bipolar disorder. But I wasn't diagnosed yet in that season. So but the other job where she gave me an hour or 2 off of being on the phone, I told her I'm having a panic attack. And I guess because she has them too, she was okay with it.
Right.
But I'm not really interested in investing in a job to answer the stupid questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Then go through orientation, then pass the orientation. Then you're actually doing the job, and everything is about doing the job perfectly. So quality assurance says you're okay. And then do your annual review or 6-month review of the job. So, I mean, we could probably jump ahead to the question of entrepreneurship, but
So
We're still
yeah,
challenges and overcoming systemic barriers first.
okay. So what I was going to say from all of this is my um, about almost 15 years ago, I met my current partner, and when he and I started dating, he went through two life altering injuries. The first was a traumatic brain injury pretty early in our relationship, and the second was about 7 years ago, and he slipped and shattered his acetabulum, which is the really, really large hip bone that attaches to your leg. And yeah, he slipped, it shattered, and he had to have it surgically reconstructed, then had 10 weeks of bed rest, then uh, had to relearn how to walk, and then we had to try to figure out what happened, because that's not a normal injury in response to having your hip fall 3 feet to the ground. It's more commonly associated with falling about 10 floors, 5 to 10 floors, or being in like a head-on collision with like your foot jammed onto like the brake or the gas pedal.
But how did it break? Was he walking or what?
Yeah, he was walking quickly to try to catch the long rail, the light rail from where he was working in Newark to make his way home.
Okay. Never run for a train or a bus.
Yep, and
And
he
I'm
wasn't.
speaking from experience. I
Yep.
almost flew under a bus during the
Mm-hmm.
snow. So we had a giant snowbank, and then the bus of me going to school, I was trying to run and get it, but it was still dark outside. So she probably didn't see me. And I hit the bus and I bounced back into the snowbank. I was fine because I was able to
Yep.
go to school that day. But everyone else watching, no transit is worth running because you missed
Nope.
it. Catch
Nope.
the next one and just say I was late.
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
this is the
It's
most dramatic of injury, and mine was, oh, don't worry, I bounced back. But this one, you don't bounce back. That I
no.
just had the visual of train and then trying to catch and jump before the door closes or something.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't that. It was just he was walking. He crossed the street and he slipped. And we honestly at first thought that maybe he'd hit his hip on like the rail,
Mm-hmm.
but what we eventually discovered was that actually what happened was he had osteoporosis and had no idea,
Oh,
and he developed and we were in our late 30s. Like this should not have happened.
oh,
He still should not have
that's
had.
not the normal window of osteoporosis.
Well, no, or the standard gender either. And we ended up digging down and discovered that he actually had autoimmune pernicious anemia, which is somewhat common, but usually happens either to like infants when it's not autoimmune or to older people. And for whatever reason, his body said, nope, I'm just gonna hate on myself and not let my intestine, my stomach or intestines absorb vitamin B12.
Oh, that's when I get shots on for nerve pain in my fingertips.
So yeah, so vitamin B12 is rather essential, and among other things, it controls like the main thing is it's associated with somewhat with memory, and it's pretty essential for survival, but it also controls aspects of um, providing energy to the bones. And if you have too little B12, not enough maintenance is done on the bones. A chemical involved floods the system, reduces the maintenance. Osteoporosis happens. Now,
Okay.
usually you get diagnosed with the B12 issues long before there's a chance of having osteoporosis.
Right. Like me. Like I had numbness in my fingers. And then she's like, let's try B12. The first B12 shot, I smelled oranges for some reason.
Hmm.
And then it was every month for a year and a half. I'm due for a follow up to make sure,
Mm-hmm.
like
And
B12, vitamin D, those are the two things I have supplements on now.
mhm.
because
Yeah.
it's anti-inflammatory with multiple sclerosis, but clearly B12 and vitamin D deficiencies happen in other illnesses that could have
Oh,
pretty
absolutely.
dramatic
And
consequences. Well, I'm not going to call it consequences. They're side
well,
effects.
impacts. Impacts. It's a good word.
Yeah.
And so after we went through that, and I spent a year getting him through the medical system, we were thinking about our next steps. And he was like, "You get the system so well. You knew what to say. You knew who to talk to. You knew what to do to get me everything I needed. You knew what the health insurance was going to ask for. You know how to ask to get me to the right hospitals." Because there was a lot of drama happened during that year.
Right.
And so he's like, there are a lot of people like me who wouldn't know what to do. Maybe you should share that. And that was how Thrive and Well Disabled was born.
Okay,
As,
good. So operating a small business, your
Mhm.
courses and coaching, you
Yep.
not only built a powerful platform and offer online courses and coaching to help others. What has been your experience operating a small business as a disabled person, particularly within the United States system? What challenges, opportunities have you encountered, and how do your online courses provide practical guidance for everybody, disabled individuals looking to pursue entrepreneurship or build their own financial ventures? I should have made that question shorter. I am sorry.
It's okay. It's all good. Okay, so I'm kind of going to go a little backwards.
Mhm.
So the first thing is I actually basically have online courses and lots of blog posts that help people go through everything from like thinking through applying for disability, and I actually have a coaching program specifically to help people apply for and get on it, to all of the rules and regulations around working while collecting benefits here in the US. I also have a online masterclass that details self-employment while collecting benefits, as well as one on working while collecting benefits. So a lot of my work centers around the US disability system that Social Security runs and helping people understand how they can work while protecting themselves and what the magic numbers are when it comes to limits so that they can be in control about whether or not their benefits end. Because one of the things that happens really commonly here is people don't know what the rules are. And so when they start to feel better or when they feel the financial pressure too much, they start working even though they're not actually ready to do it. And they don't understand the rules. And so they unintentionally earn their way to losing their benefits and don't even know it. And then the government comes to them months or years later and says, "Hey, you shouldn't have been getting this money all this time. Now you owe us all that money back. Please pay it back now."
Yes, the whopping overpayment. Yes,
Exactly.
because of the clawback reduction calculator that they don't explain.
Yep.
That for me being in Canada and Ontario Disability Support Program, I had to make my own Pacific calculator.
Mhm.
And we're doing the show. You're in America. I have roughly 50% almost of American viewers that watch me that have asked disability questions. And I'm so glad you're here because
I'm happy to answer them. Yeah.
if there's, I mean, the chat is open. It
Mhm.
says only one person is watching, but I'm hoping there'll be comments on the
Yeah.
replay. Plus, the link the link for this live stream went to a different spot on my channel, so I have to go back in and do a lot of editing later. But that, so you're diagnosed with a disability or health condition, then you get stable, then you feel, let me go back to work. Or in my case, I was pressured to go back to work by my
Mhm.
mom because, oh, you're so lazy on the couch. No, I was dealing with depression and PTSD and a psychosis episode, and I didn't have a rehab program. And oh, yeah, I barely saved my apartment from being evicted and paying off the sheriff at the courthouse for the
Oh,
back pay. And there was a lot of like, no, it wasn't like, let me breathe.
right. It's a let me breathe, not, yeah. So it's,
And
so
reality
like,
hits you because the amount of disability that you get, I'm sure it's still pretty low because
oh yeah.
2011 for me, it was $1,064 a month. My rent back
Mhm.
then was like 700 and change, but I was also in a rent control apartment. So to save a rent control apartment, that's a big
Yeah, yeah.
emotional deal because housing in Canada is almost impossible to find good housing. And then housing with a disability, like,
Even harder.
luckily, I don't need accessibility accommodations with a wheelchair, but then they will move me to the first floor, but that floor is always flooded all the time.
Oh, that's going to be a lovely challenge.
Yeah, I'm not really looking forward if multiple sclerosis decides to progress because
Yeah,
no, not here. Somewhere else, please.
right. Please. And so yeah, so there's so like in the US, um, the amount that you get if you're on the retirement benefits actually is based on your work history. So it's a little different in that sense. There's also another program, and that's SSDI. That there's another program, SSI, Supplemental Security Income, which is the benefits if you don't have the work history. I'd actually just aged into eligibility for the pensions based program. 22 is apparently the cutoff point. If you're under 22 and you become disabled, they presume you don't have enough of a work history and you end up on SSI. If you're over that and you have enough work history, you can get on SSDI. So for me, I think it was basically because I attended school full time without a break, and I worked and I did some self financed travel. And so they looked at all of my information and decided it was enough for me to be eligible. And I guess because just, I was so early in my career and I'd been on the fast track towards success prior to becoming disabled. And I'm using quotes because, again, I'd had disabilities the whole time, but this was when I went from having a disability to being certified disabled.
Yeah.
Um, I actually got a relatively high amount of money. And they also do a cost of living increase every year. So
That part Canada doesn't do. The increase to inflation, we just started that in 2021 for Ontario. I didn't look for the other provinces that they do it. It's in the federal program. So the federal program for us is Canada Pension Plan
mm,
Disability, but that's our age limit for that is 64 or 65 or younger. So if you had enough contributed from your employment into Canada Pension Plan and you're under the age of 65, you can access it. And then when you're over 65, but you're still disabled, you don't get the disability pension. You still get the regular pension. They calculate the numbers
oh, okay.
differently. But for me, my pension contributions was $1,000 and it's still $1,000. I haven't made enough income from my business to contribute to it because you contribute to you're 71, I
Mm-hmm.
think. But American age limit is 22, which okay, but the
It's
functional structure around it are roughly the same.
There's a lot of similarities, and like the social impact, I think, is very similar. And like that's a big part of what I talk about in both in my stuff. A lot of my stuff, I talk about it's the combination of the emotional impacts and the way our social structure works that really make things very difficult. But we'll talk about that more a little later.
Well, the next question is about your book. So,
Okay, so
and shifting the narrative. You've been instrumental in shifting the narrative around disability, moving from one deficit to one of empowerment and wealth. You've authored 2 impactful books on the topic, which we're excited to highlight today, which we will. They get to see what the books look like because I have images of that. Could you tell us about your first book, which is Thriving While Disabled, Recognizing Bias, right?
absolutely,
And
yeah.
how it contributes to developing a thriving mindset.
Okay.
So, as you talk,
Oh,
I will show this book. Wait,
oh,
the other
switch
one.
them.
Hold on.
Yep, yep.
There we
All
go.
right.
This
Ta-da.
one.
So this is Thriving While Disabled, Recognizing Bias. And it's for people with vision impairments. It is a really lively turquoise. And it says Thriving While Disabled in large type across the top. Each word is its own line. Then below that, a line to the left is recognizing bias, and there's a
AI called it a gold magnifying glass in yellow.
yeah, that works. And then across the bottom is my name, Alison Hayes, in text. So basically, Thriving While Disabled Recognizing Bias digs into the biases that we face as people with disabilities and the shifts that you can make to help get through that, as well as looking at life through that lens of having a disability and how people look and thinking about how people look at us and how to plan ahead to manage those perspectives and protect yourself from internalizing it. Because one of the big problems is actually that we start believing the stories of disability. And so when I was talking before about certified disabled, this is what I'm talking about. Having a disability is something that many people have, but people, until it gets severe enough, people tend to be uncomfortable with using that term because we tend to think about certified disabled as disability.
Or always the physical disabilities. So like wheelchair
Yep.
user, blind and deaf, maybe diabetes, but if you're missing a limb,
Right.
It's a weird.
It's the visible disabilities people think about. It's the visible disabilities and the certified disabled. When I say certified disabled, what I'm actually talking about is being on a disability program. But almost every country's disability program is only for people who are too disabled to work.
Yeah, all of them are based on work or your ability
Right.
to be a member of the gross domestic product is what I like to call it. Yeah.
Yep, that is definitely a way to look at it. It's how do we convert you into money? If we cannot convert you into money by you doing things that make money, then we go into extractive, where people get money from using you in some ways, like medical care systems that get paid every month for providing you with food and shelter and things like
Right. The
that.
institutionalizing of disabled people,
Right.
which I took that leadership course at Race and Disability Canada. It's also at many universities in disability studies as one of the courses.
Mhm.
If you decide to get a degree or a master's or a PhD in disability studies, we talk about it, but we seem to talk about it when we want to specialize in it, which is weird. Or when you're healthy and they're trying to sell you disability insurance as if it'll happen later, when
Yeah.
it really can happen at any point in life from birth to death.
Yep. And yeah, so there's a lot of pieces to that. So the big thing to think about is abled people want people to either be abled to or certified disabled, one or the other.
But there's a
And
lot of in between. Like
exactly, there is.
there's
But
so much in between. The level
there
of
is.
like gambling addiction or depression or like
Yep.
diabetes or diabetes only when you're pregnant, and then you have all these other things that come with your pregnant like preeclampsia and psychosis and postpartum. That
Well,
alone already being a female
right,
body that can carry a baby, you're already up a hill pushing a
right.
boulder and a baby, and then have to raise it and then not fall apart and have a crisis moment.
Well, yeah, you have
That's
to
the gray
protect.
window I'm describing for
Oh, yeah, yeah. And
if you
so, like,
identify as female. And then, yeah, men tend to hold their anger, depression internally.
yep,
And
which
then
doesn't do good either. It
they
tends
end
to
up
go
doing very horrible things with weapons
mm-hmm.
when they reach their breaking point. And one of them was over here was a motor vehicle, a van decided to run over some people. Like,
Yeah.
hello, if we had all the extra supports in between,
Yep.
not
And
oh yeah you have to go to rehab before you come back to work, or like police officers, they have to do a certain amount of psychotherapy before they go back to work, and they make it as painful as possible because they just want to get back to work. But if you took the time to take the time off, like the
right.
European countries like to take 6 months off as part of their routine, we wouldn't have this buildup of
right. And there's
and then
also
explode like a volcano. Yeah.
right. So, and then there's also like, but I mean, when you think about it, okay, if somebody is visibly disabled, they tend to be expected not to do much, and they're not necessarily. And you know, depending, there's all different kinds of costs around that, but there's this. They're fighting these low expectations. For people who have non-apparent disabilities like us, the struggle is proving we're actually disabled or trying to get into that middle zone, because people want us to either be completely abled and so we can do all the things, or completely disabled so we're a sad little sack of a human being crying in the corner who needs everybody to take care of them.
Yeah.
Again, that's
Infancy.
stereotype.
Yes. Yeah.
And so if you don't fit the one, obviously you must be the other. And then people get disappointed if you don't fit that expectation.
That is the most unrealistic pressure
Yep. Oh,
on
absolutely. 100.
everybody for no reason
Yep. But that's the
other
ableist.
than to make money. Like the only like the I hate how
And
it just came down like
okay.
dollar signs out of
Oh,
everything
oh yeah.
versus
Nope. I hate it
just
too.
the human experience. Okay, yes, I would like to do these projects and make money and survive, but
Hmm.
because everything now is attached to a dollar sign,
Yep.
not like when we used to barter and trade.
So
Like if you wanted my shirt for the weekend and I wanted like your hair clip for the same weekend, that's a good trade. But now it has to be like, well, I'll buy it for $40 instead. Like it's just
yeah. So there's bartering is a whole other conversation.
I know.
We
I'm just
can't go into it
like
right now. But
the timeline of our human history. At one
there
point,
actually was not a time of barter. That's a whole other conversation.
all right, never mind. Never mind. I
Okay.
thought, never mind. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the big thing is like these are the messages we as disabled people receive from society. These messages of brokenness, these messages of low worth, these messages of failure. And no matter whether our disabilities are obvious or not, on some level, we're being told repeatedly that we are failing. And there's also what we were alluding to, which is there's also severe classism. And within the classism is this idea that people with disabilities are poor, and should be poor. So part of what we're dealing with is this belief system of poverty and disability being strongly connected. There is some reality behind it in that it's harder for us to get jobs, but a big part of that is the societal bias against us, making employers less likely to hire us. But it digs in. And then, as people with disabilities, we have all of these layers of bias that we're facing, as well as increased risk of abuse and neglect. Neglect within institutions, abuse by friends, family, or strangers, as we become more likely to be dependent on other people. Because the other presumption in society is your family's going to take care of you if you're disabled. Because we're associated also, besides with failure, also with being children.
Yeah. And the family structure. So, like, with me not having a good childhood and a lot of neglect, emotional neglect, like they were there for food, clothing, shelter, but all the emotional stability that you need to develop as a human being wasn't solid.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I get older and I do everything by myself, where I had to go look into how can I do my power of care and power of attorney as an individual, then I'm looking at hiring a professional service that would do it for me. But then I probably should have someone I know as a backup so
Yep.
they're jointly able to do it. But either way, I don't want the government to touch my money because I
Yep.
work so hard making my decision power to build my finances, which, yes, we should probably talk about the finance book since
Yes.
this makes
So,
sense.
okay. So, recognizing bias is that let's understand the process. Let's understand society. Let's understand what we're at risk of and what we can do about it. Navigating disability finances is the nuts and bolts guide for how do I survive with a disability, with guidance on shifting from surviving closer to thriving. Um, both of these books are built primarily on my own experiences. So I discuss US laws, but every single chapter in both books has a beginning section that talks about the concern or issue or topic from a international perspective and goes into how other countries generally might handle this, gives examples from a few countries, and helps you kind of put it into perspective. So you can then use a lot of the terms I discuss in the US details to help you find the parallel or similar laws in your home country. So I really went into this thinking about how do I help the disability community globally rather than just Americans.
Which is good in the sense that all the countries that want to have a disability program all base it based on can you make money, and
Mm-hmm.
then they tend to go in the welfare system first. So the
Yep.
welfare system is tend to be temporary, where you go back to work as soon as possible. But then when they realize, oh yeah, you're not going back to work because you keep telling us you're disabled, let's move you into our disabled program.
Yep.
Because they all branch off. There's welfare first, then they realize there's a need for people with disabilities, so they add the disability program. Like Ontario, we have Ontario Works, used to be welfare. Then they added
Mm-hmm.
ODSP, which is Ontario Disability Support Program, but it wasn't. They didn't change the job description for the caseworkers. The same caseworkers. Like they took like half the caseworkers on the floor. They said you'll be disability caseworkers, and then you guys will be welfare caseworkers. But
Oh,
disability caseworkers still treat you like a welfare caseworker.
oh God.
So there's no direct separation. There's no. We're working
They,
with people with disabilities. We should try to be more customizable.
and they
And
aren't.
then a lot of our programs are outsourced to the American something software or fraud detection program. Like we outsource a lot of our stuff to America that should be
Oh, lovely.
handled by Canadians in our country for our people.
I'm
And
so
then
sorry.
I noticed it for Ireland and the UK and Spain and New Zealand. These are mostly people that DM me about their stuff over there. And I try to go read your websites. Sometimes the language is like the same, but different paragraph changing. Sometimes it's weird wording to make you feel what's the point of
Mm,
going through it. But in the end, it's still like I need assistance. I don't have family or I don't have savings or I don't qualify for EI or disability insurance from my employer. Because if you're working precarious work, like the gig economy, all the Uber drivers, if they don't put money into their employment insurance, they have nothing to pull from.
right.
But our system is also once you set that up and enroll in it, it's permanently there after 60 days. You have 60 days to cancel. And then I had to apply for it to prove to my caseworker at the disability office that I don't qualify for it. It's stupid. I just need a bigger emergency fund. Like I had to like apply, send her a letter that I applied. Then she's like, okay, good. Then the caseworker changed. So when the caseworker changed, I canceled the freaking thing as fast as I could
Right, right, right.
because I didn't want to be stuck in this thing that I have to pay into. And it only pays out $700 a week, which is still a $10,000 emergency fund when I did the math
Right.
of how much money it pays per week up to 26 weeks. It's a
Oh,
$10,000 emergency fund,
right.
which is $833 a month, which is still,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a weird way how I did the math. And I was like, Nobody's going to tell me to do this ever again.
Right. No. And and like that's the thing. Like people don't like to recognize permanent disability as a thing. Even when they have to, they're still going, okay, but once you get better, you can work. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, but we just said I have a permanent disability.
Lesions in my brain and my spine that affect everything that I do.
Right.
That I
And
have
so
to do an MRI scan every year and lie in this machine and sing Night at the Roxbury in my head.
and and yeah, and so like the idea within navigating disability finances is okay, look, you're starting to realize you're disabled. Let's go through what your risks are. Your risk profile has just changed because you are now viewed as more fragile by society. You have a bigger risk of all of the things going wrong. I actually start the book with a discussion on defining poverty and poverty levels to put things in perspective, because very often programs are based around their country's definition of poverty. And so I dig into the US example, that, yeah, it was developed as the federal poverty level is a tool to say how much is definitely not enough. And since that was created in the 60s based on data from 1955, they have not changed it other than updating it annually based on the cost of enough food to not die, which is the economy plan of food security. That's it.
Yeah, that is so like Food Bank Canada made a document that poverty was considered based on these 12
Mhm.
items. If you could not buy two of them, you were considered poverty. But it's
Okay.
not the official. We have a basket measure of poverty based on housing, clothing, like
Mhm.
I don't know, 6 items they put into a basket and they call it
Yeah.
the basket measure of poverty. But then
Mhm.
Ontario has a different index measure
Of course.
because
Yep.
and it's just a can we just pick one? But then you're telling me Americans didn't change theirs since the 1950s and we're in 2025.
Yep.
That's
Oh,
almost 60 years.
yeah. So yeah, and the really fun part is basically the calculation was, um, the cost of food in 1955 was roughly one third of household expenses. Yeah. The other third being
And
housing,
mine is
third being
like
everything else.
$300 to $600 depending on what I'm buying for myself. Just me
And
in this tiny apartment.
okay,
And also if it's delivery or if I go pick it up and I pull all my cart my grocery items home. There's a huge difference of physical energy wasted and depleted of physically going into the store, bringing it back in the granny trolley cart, or clicking online, telling it no, I don't want these extra items,
oh
and
well,
then go spend $235 and a guy brings it to my door and I still have to pack it out, but I'm still huffing and puffing like I picked up everything in the store.
okay, so like, oh, it don't even touch that. This is just like survival level food stuff, and like so they neglect to consider things like, oh, now most women are also working, so you don't have a wife at home to make healthy meals and care for the children. They don't consider the cost of internet or cell phones or those kinds of things.
Laundry,
So,
because not everyone has laundry in their home.
well, yeah, but I'm talking the big stuff. But
Yeah,
like,
of course. But like, I have to pay $3 to wash and $3 to dry. Sometimes the machine doesn't work, so I have to pay again,
right, right,
and then fold it, pack it out, bring it.
yep,
And
and
then if
that's
I
me.
do wash and fold is a minimum of $25 for 15 pounds of clothes. And I'm still not
Right,
sure what 15 pounds of clothes is, so I think it's all of my clothes.
right. Oh,
But then they charge different pricing for covers or duvets or dry cleaning and
all
what
kinds
all
of
because I don't have a laundry machine in my apartment that I can run all day long and not have to worry about it.
Well, in the
So
1950s, nobody had one of those.
yeah, they kind of wash everything by hand, which means
Yeah.
you had a spouse staying home to
And
do
doing
all the things. So then when you come home at 5 and go, is dinner ready?
right. So it's like a huge disconnect. And so to make up for that, every program in the US, the amount of money it takes to be eligible is a percentage of the federal poverty level, but it's always more than 100%. So you're at 133% of the federal poverty level, or 150%, or 200%, or 400%. And then you're eligible for whatever program. But still, the base number is such a mess.
Yeah.
And so throughout the rest of the book, I'm referencing, what percentage of the federal poverty level is usually used to make decisions, and also discussing that difference between national law and state law, because a lot of programs are either run federally or by the state. And that breakdown is different in Canada than in the US, and is different in a lot of countries, like in the EU. There's also two levels. It's just one level is EU law and the other is that country's law.
Yeah, I mean, Americans just made it harder.
Oh yeah.
But and Canada, I never really figured out how they calculated it. I know they copied a part of it from the United States, because I found an academic journal
Mm-hmm.
from, I don't know, I went from like back as 1985 when I was searching stuff online, which was a lot of me in my bipolar episodes, up at
Yeah.
night, in
Yeah.
psychosis. Let's dig down the rabbit hole of disability stuff. So yeah, it was anywhere from like 1985, but they were researching from 1960, the last 20 years, to make ours for Ontario, which is Ontario Works. It's
Mm-hmm.
named Ontario Works now. Used to be welfare before.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1997, they made ours based off studying Americans for 30 years from your 1950 baseline,
Yeah.
which we study 40 years later,
Yeah.
which makes no sense.
Well, there are two different studies done in the US. And basically what happened was the people who did the studies refused to give a single simple calculation for poverty, because it's not really possible to do in a healthy way. And so this poor woman who created the initial formula still gets the crap for it, because she made the calculation, and nobody since then has been willing to make a calculation, because they now know what it'll be used for. When she created that calculation, she didn't know what it was going to be used for. She just was trying, like, her thing was, I just want to be able to put a number to show how much is too little.
Yeah. Where's the bottom? That's all we're looking for. What is the
Right.
bottom?
Right. So she
And
made this
then what's
calculation.
below the bottom? That's all. Like when we dig to the middle of the earth, that's all we're trying to figure. Do we fall
So
to the other
yeah.
side, or do we hit something in the middle? That's all we're trying to do.
So yeah. So she, made this calculation of how much is too little. And then, like, 5 years later, the US is like, oh, ta-da! We've got the number. That's poverty now.
And then
that
Canada
becomes,
being too lazy to make up their own number, they copy your country's number and
yep.
change it over. The more we protest is when they change it. So like 2011, when I got on, if you made any money, 50% of what they give you was clawback. And then they added a flat rate exemption. This is earned income. Then 2017, they changed the asset limit from $5,000 for disabled single person. It's a different number for a couple, usually $500 for each independent child. So it went from 5,000 to 40,000, but they also had different types of assets in it. So one of them is the life insurance that has investment accounts in it. That's exempt up to $100,000, but that's only opened when you go to a life insurance company to open that particular account, because we have traditional financial institutions and then credit unions. You'd open your registered investments over there. But then life insurance companies, they also want to get involved in the investment market, stock market game.
Yeah.
And then for me, I literally have to separate exempt assets, non-exempt assets, partial exempt assets, business assets, just to be a single person,
Mhm.
where I quote the policy and I send it to my caseworker and I let them know this is this part of your policy. This is this part of your policy. Stop messing with my file.
Right. Yeah. No, and but like, that's the thing. We need to be aware. And so that's what the book's about, to give people that information so they can quote it back, so
Yeah.
they can have those numbers, so they can have like an actual plan instead of hoping.
Okay. Now I found the question because I was like, where was the question?
And so,
So, but we're touching on it. We're defining disabled wealthy. We talked about financial independence in the United States. The show is called Disabled Wealthy, and for us, financial independence often means creating our own narrative. What does disabled wealthy mean to you personally within the American context? We talked about that. What does your concept of financial independence align with the strategies you advocate for navigating U.S. disability benefits and building wealth? So we didn't even talk about the building. Well, we did. We're starting to talk about the building
we're
wealth
starting to have
part.
a book. So,
So
so
for Americans, I know there's a weird rule of resources and it's $2,000.
oh,
And
okay,
then there was an academic paper that wanted it to be $200,000 because they said they wouldn't change anything else for
okay,
people on the benefits. Is that true? Did you find it or do you have a different
okay. So
version of that?
here's what it is. Like I mentioned in the beginning, there are two different disability programs in the U.S. SSI and SSDI. And so SSI is supplemental security income for people who don't have enough of a work history to get on Social Security retirement benefits. For people on SSI, as a single adult, they're allowed to have up to $2,000 of assets. No more than that. That was that number was put in quite a while ago. And when they put it in, they did not bother to index it to inflation or anything. It's just been a straight up $2,000 the entire time.
Yeah.
If they had just adjusted for inflation, the amount would be $20,000.
Okay.
Just for inflation.
Half of our 40. Okay.
So, but then the other part of that law, and this is where marriage equality comes in, is that couples can have no more than $3,000 in assets. So if you get married or are living as married, which is never further defined, you cannot have more than $3,000 in benefits, in assets, in order to continue to collect benefits.
And that's anywhere from like $800 to maybe $4,000, depending on what you qualify for.
Oh no, SSI is lower. SSI, the national number was 941.
Okay.
Last year. It's like 980-ish right now. And then some states supplement that and put a little extra money on because they are less evil.
Right. And there's what, 50 states?
Yep. So
I
like,
mean, I thought there was 52, but 50, I don't know.
well,
I lost track.
There's 50 states and multiple territories that they don't want to make into states for various.
Okay. And then we know our provinces and our territories when we talk. Like, it's just say the whole country. I wish it would just.
Well, like, it's like Puerto Rico is a territory of the U.S., but why
Yeah.
would we let the brown people be the 51st state?
And then Alaska. So that I
Well,
thought was
Alaska's a state.
Canadian.
Alaska is a state.
Okay. So that's the 50 part. Okay.
That's the 50th.
So then
Yeah,
Hawaii is a territory?
Hawaii and Alaska were the last two places made states.
Okay. Okay. And I still don't know why Canada couldn't buy an island. Okay. Yeah. We're on track. Okay.
So, yeah, so people on SSI, if they get married, they they lose the ability to have $1,000 worth of assets or are kicked off the program for having extra assets, even though the amount of assets they had have not changed from before they got married. Because two single people can have 2,000 each. A couple can only have 3,000 in assets.
Yeah, and annoyingly, Ontario, the asset limit for single person is $40,000. Is the non-exempt assets.
Mhm.
Couple is 50,000. Then each dependent child is 500. And then if you have the life insurance or funds held in a trust fund, it's 100,000. And then we're allowed $10,000 in gifts in a 12-month period. So I added up that we can have 150 for a single person. And then
Mm.
each province is roughly in 150. But America's, 3,000. What is that? That doesn't do anything.
Exactly. And like this is why the being kept in poverty. And so like there are some laws, there are a couple of laws that have been proposed to correct this, but of course they've gotten nowhere.
Yeah, I saw that academic paper, the 200,000, and I
And
also saw it didn't fly any up the ladder to go
no,
anywhere. Yeah.
no, like for the last 3 or 4 years, every year there's one or more proposed laws to make this adjustment. And oh yeah, and for marriage equality's sake, the other part of the adjustment is $10,000 for a single person, 20,000 for a couple, and have it set to update every year based on either the details vary, but like cost of living or inflation.
I mean, because
It would make sense, but why
it
would they do
would. It's just a weird way. We have a democracy. We're supposed to go vote for people that's supposed to represent us and our well being.
it?
And since the 1950s till now, we have monkeys in the asylum running the countries that don't stop to think that no, because we don't live in the White House. We don't have servants and staff and chefs taking care of us. Us little people need
Well, I mean,
something to work towards that's not just pay bills and die.
yeah. So that goes back to the classism.
Oh,
Disabled people are predominantly poor. Poor people don't matter to the politicians because they get money from the wealthy people.
but not like a whole lot. Like it's still,
It depends. The US right now, it's very, very broken. They get a lot of money from the wealthy people. A lot of people are bought and paid for. It's really disturbing down here. And it's gotten a lot worse with the current.
yeah, the orange person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. The short version is a big part of why I shifted my books to be more international is because he won. And I was very concerned about a lot of the programs that I spoke about ceasing to exist.
Yeah, because he'll
And
sign something and then.
unfortunately, I wasn't wrong. Most of them at this point many of them have had all employees related to the program in the federal government fired. And so the programs haven't officially been destroyed, but there's nobody there running it.
Okay.
So yeah, but
This
I can
question.
help people move forward. So, okay. So like, I know in this we were talking about, are we going to talk about the surviving to thriving now or
We
later?
did, because of the asset limits. Like we can't,
Yeah.
I mean, we could like, depending on your life goal, if it's to make enough money to supplement disability, that's one strategy. But if you're making enough money that I like to have $1 million net worth portfolio, that's a different strategy. But it's also based on my country or where I am. And then if
Correct.
you're in America with the $2,000 resources, and then if you become a couple, but you can't become a couple because of the asset limits, so then you may stay dating and not living together because to protect the other person's assets. Like there's so many things to plan that
Yeah.
able-bodied, healthy couples that we see in rom-com movies never have to think about.
No, not at all. And so like that's why I have a chapter in recognizing bias about marriage through the disability lens. And I have another chapter about having or not having children through the disability lens. And I talk about the costs and benefits on both in both things so that people can make a knowledge-based decision. I'm not going to tell someone you need to get married or you should never get married. I'm not going to tell someone you must have kids or you shouldn't have kids.
Yeah, like
I'm
my
not,
mom trying to have grandbabies because I'm ruining her life plan and
oh,
retirement. And I'm like, no, there's a reason I shut down Baby Factory in 2017 where my tubes are, they're not even there. They're gone. I told them to take them out. Like I didn't, I had two options, remove them completely or cut them and stitch them and burn them. But they said there was like a 90% chance they can grow back together. And since I know I heal very well, I'm like, I'm not going to risk it. So
hold on.
knowing my body for spite, it'll just grow back and then I'm pregnant. And I
Yeah,
can't, I
no, and
can't do that to a little human of your mom's in poverty and then you're in poverty too. So the minute you turn 18, like you
yeah.
have to decide if you're disabled or not disabled because there's also that like people have children, then the children learn from you, then the minute they let, so Ontario lets the child under the age of 18, their income is exempt
Mm,
from clawing back your benefits, but the minute they become 18 and they're considered financially independent, and
mm,
there's a very specific rules in Ontario disability policy for what considers a financially independent child over the age of 18.
yep.
If they still live with you because they're not yet ready to go into the ridiculous housing market of $3,000 a month for rent and have roommates, they're still there. And then if you're living in what we have RGI housing, which is rent to geared income housing,
Mm,
if they're still living with you, because the housing cost is very, very subsidized and lower in RGI housing, the children will stay there because that's what they know. That's
right.
and then go tell them to go live on their own when this is already difficult for adults to manage.
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, let's teach it to the next generation so then they repeat the same thing. So they're not thinking of fighting the system like we're thinking to fight the system, or at least
Yeah.
understand the system so it doesn't consume us in a
Yeah.
way. So, yeah, this is a huge conversation if people are watching now or on the replay. Because yes, we covered all the notes. I know it seems like a big document of notes, but we covered everything
But
because
yeah,
it's
it's
it's a hamster wheel in a maze, and if you touch the walls, you might get electrocuted. That is just the best science description I can give
yeah,
of it. So,
that's
like,
not a bad description. And so like the first book is more mindset and expectations. The second book is more nuts and bolts, transportation, healthcare, um, benefits, things like that. And the whole point throughout is here's how to here's how to not deal with the potential emergencies and not die.
mhm.
And as you're figuring those things out, move yourself forward and find work that actually makes sense for you or find your sense of purpose. Because my thing is the way I think of thriving is being able to have a sense of purpose and be relatively satisfied with your life. And so what your purpose is, that's the individual. But it can be your work. For me, it is. For me, a big part of my purpose is spreading the word, helping other people with disabilities look forward. I know I had a lot of privilege in my life, and that was part of how I was able to learn all of these pieces because I had fallback plans if something went wrong. And so I wasn't in that emergency state of mind. I was like able to take a step back from that and do the research I needed so I could understand the things and then use that to make things better. And I understand a lot of people don't have that luxury.
Yeah, and
So,
the same with me. Like, yes, I'm a Black woman and I have a disability and it's a mental illness and my family is super ableist, but I left home at 18 to figure it out on my own.
mm-hmm,
And then my safety net was the welfare system, but it's not as bad as America, I'm learning. It's bad, but it's not like defeated. Like I didn't feel hopeless in it once I read the policy. So once I read the policy and then I adapted it to the 7 baby steps of Dave Ramsey and I worked towards it, then over time, because our political fight over here, when we fight for disability rights or changing in policy, we do make progress. I know our Canadians feel like we don't make progress, but we actually do make a little better progress than Americans because we have
Yeah.
our new Canada disability benefit of $200 if you're eligible for the disability tax credit. I'm able to invest that money when it comes into my budget, into my disability savings plan. That gives me a match on my contributions.
Mhm.
And it's in the traditional sense of you have to hit $100,000 to see the compound interest growth. And I'm seeing the magic happen. But it's like my maze of gold and then your maze over there of concrete. I don't because like there's an image on the screen of like 3 disabled people. One's in a wheelchair. One has a cane and a walker, and one is only has one arm. So the other arm is amputee. Right? I almost said missing, but it's not missing. so
Removed.
so yeah, we start. Yes, unavailable. Yes. so
And like,
that starting place, we start in a maze with our disabilities,
yep.
and there's golden gooses in the maze if we can find them and not get
Exactly.
crushed by the obstacles in the maze.
Oh,
And I think
absolutely.
we described that as best as we could for living in 2 different countries,
Mhm.
2 different starting places.
And like
And we're still
along,
very optimistic about it in some way, which is
absolutely.
impressive.
And like the money part, the other big thing that a lot of Americans don't even know about, because like I think the biggest problem in the U.S. is actually that lack of, because disability is such a taboo thought and topic, and so many people don't want to talk about or think about it. It's hard to have all of the information you need together in one spot, which is why I put my resources together. One of the programs that a lot of people don't know about are the ABLE accounts, which
Mhm.
are Achieving a Better Life Experience. And those accounts are the only thing that's an exception to all of the asset limits discussed. And so you can have an ABLE account if you've been disabled. The current text of the bill is if you became disabled before the age of 26.
Yeah, and
But
I read it's changing to
yep,
40 soon.
it's changing to 46 on January 1st.
Okay. So the
Uh,
January that happened, the 2025 January?
January 2026.
Okay. So the one
So
that's
this
coming in
coming,
6 months or
so
5
this
months.
coming, yeah. So this
Yep.
coming January, it changes to 46. But basically, you can have an ABLE account, which it looks like there's some investment options within it, or you can use it like as a regular old bank account. But either way, it holds your money. Like they compare it to like an education plan
Okay.
for a child. But the idea of it is the person who owns the ABLE account can put money in there. Friends and family can put money in there, and it's a container for the money that can be used by the disabled individual to pay for anything related to their disability.
Yeah, it sounds like for that, it's a universal account because instead of them making multiple accounts for people with disabilities, it sounds like they made this giant universal account that luckily the policy said they'll exempt it.
Correct. And so it's the cool thing with the ABLE accounts is they're exempt from um, everything that considers assets. So you put the money in the ABLE account. Not only is it not counted by SSI, but it's also not counted by a housing authority. It's also not counted by SNAP benefits, the food assistance,
Right.
or heat and energy benefits. Any financial based benefit program doesn't count the money in the ABLE account.
Yeah, I remember connecting with a person in the United States that had one,
Mm-hmm.
and I sent some money towards it. I remember writing in the note I was sending her the funds. This
Mm-hmm.
is for your ABLE account. Like I made
Yep.
sure it was in writing.
Yep.
because I'm in Canada, I didn't want her to get in trouble. And during the pandemic, I got a little extra funds and I was a generous donor and giving people money. One of them had a GoFundMe because she had a heart attack or stroke. And then the other one, she was doing a doggy daycare business, plus she would refurbish furniture
Mhm.
that she would find and sell
Mhm.
it. So I
Mhm.
wanted her to keep doing it.
Mhm.
And then it was like, oh yeah, wait, you're on disability. How do I send you money that doesn't get you in trouble? And
Mhm.
yes, there's some things, but they're still not accessible to everybody, which is so annoying.
Right.
And
And so
then
the problem,
when you're functional enough to understand it and maximize it, you feel like you're the 1% of people with disabilities in the
yep,
99% that's below the poverty line, which
yeah,
classism is very irritating that way.
yes. And then classism, like I said, has a huge influence on the laws. It has a huge influence on how society views us. We're poor, and like, especially, I know in the US it's very true. I have the feeling it's very true elsewhere because of because of um,
We move our beliefs around the world. Just the best
yeah.
way to describe it. Every time we move out of the country, we bring our belief system to the other country.
So like that, like a lot of ableism and classism together, both are like, you are a failure, you cannot succeed, we can't expect you to succeed, why don't you just go away so we don't have to think about you anymore? And that's
But we're
meant,
not going nowhere.
we're here. And
Even if I travel and you deport me, I get deported back to Canada. So
right, but yeah, so there's this, like, but there's this deep-seated thing of not wanting people with disabilities
and there's
and
no more islands to send people. Australia and New Zealand are full. They're not taking nobody with disabilities over there.
oh, they've got people with disabilities over there too.
Exactly. That
We're
their
everywhere.
system over there. I briefly read the New Zealand website because someone DM'd me about it. They're in New Zealand and they want to invest while on disability because I do it over here in Canada.
Yeah,
And I said, let me look at your website real quick. I tried, but
yeah,
it's the English language of UK speaking British countries
yeah, yeah.
or Australian accent is in their policy, the words.
Yep.
So my brain couldn't, I had to ask a dictionary every 2 seconds. What does this mean? What does this mean? What?
There's so much weirdness and so much difference, and the devil's in the details.
A lot of details. Yeah.
And it's usually written in, I like to call it government legalese.
Mm-hmm.
It's not written to be understood by the layperson. It's
That's what the lawyer
written.
said at Legal Aid. That's why I'm agreeing really big with that one because the
Yeah,
lawyer's like, technically we can only understand that. I go, technically no, because you said I'm right. So,
yeah, but like it's not written for us, the common people, to understand. It's written for lawyers to understand.
but
It's
the power of
written.
Chat GPT and other AIs, we can read it too, and they can suck it.
Oh, absolutely. And we can also take the time to learn those vocabulary words and then search for them elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah,
And like I said, that's kind of what I'm viewing my book as a primer towards. I'm giving you the US vocabulary, and you will find similarities either in the words themselves or in the descriptions that can help you get to the parallel law that might exist in your country.
yeah. This is why American people are asking me for advice because
It's a mess.
it's
It's
very. And then I Google different PDF documents of American. I remember my friend said she won money from the lottery. I go, let me look. But don't trust me on everything I just said when I'm looking. Like I'm looking, I don't know if it's 2025 document because each document to check the year that you're reading because some of them update without changing or they keep everything online anyway. Like Alberta,
oh,
everything on Alberta was still online for their policies and exemption and assets and stuff. And then with SSI, but then there's a YouTube channel of a lawyer that does a call-in show where people ask her questions. So I sent her that website. I was like, call this lawyer. He does a free phone call thing on his YouTube.
oh yeah. And
But
it's
this is me maximizing the symptoms of my disability to obsess over something because my brain cannot, there's no peace. I can't,
Mhm.
me waking up tomorrow morning, oh yeah, is it the 7th of the month? Do I have to report my income? Did I make anything? Then income came in. Did they pay me as an honorarium or did they pay me as like actually my fee in my business? I hate doing that. And I learned the only way to not have that happen, you have to make more money than what they tell you have to stay below the limit. So if the ceiling is $2,000 for America for resources, assets, and then it's $40,000 for Ontario, and you stay there or stay below it, you're always at the mercy of them jumping into your file, auditing your bank account, wondering why did you move? Why did you go on vacation? Who paid for the funeral? Like everything that we would just do without
Might
our
be
disability or
might be
100%
hard for
healthy
me.
people,
Yep.
we don't have to explain any decision we make. If we want to go to Cancun and do martini glasses all weekend, like able body could do that. But disabled people, we could go to Cancun, but then we have to bring our boarding pass and the receipts. And then mom has to call and write a letter that I paid for the trip. Like it's like, I don't like night and day, but not really. Like it's just,
Micromanagement, it's that treating us as children thing. That's what it boils down to. And I talk about that also in recognizing bias as one of the infantilizing. It's one of the things that abled people do to disabled people. And I see a lot of people talking about it in the sense of viewing us as non sexual beings. And I see it when you're talking about developmentally disabled or intellectually disabled people. But the reality is, all of us, no matter what our disability is, are either presumed to be abled or are infantilized. And if we're on any of the programs, we're infantilized by the programs because we're disabled.
okay. So we're near the
Yeah.
last part. We did talk about who might feel overwhelmed by the system, but you gave them a lot of strategies and talking points and start with reading your book. And then once they read the language in your book and then they go look at SSDI website and then read it. And then,
Mhm.
yes, ask ChatGPT, what does this mean? Ask Google,
Well,
what does this mean? And
I, I
then read the next chapter in your book. So take it chapter by chapter, your book is what it sounds like.
and
Then take a break. Then decide what plan you're going to make
yep.
when you're like when you're ready, but also in a timely manner that you're not in the system forever.
Now I did make sure every chapter has almost every chapter. Like the first chapter doesn't because that's just hi, this is who I am. But every other chapter has references at the back. And when I talk about programs, I have references to resources and details with discussions in them. So, like, I actually link people to social security pages that I discuss and things like that, so that people are
And
that
then
much.
your online courses. So like if they go through the online courses, are you with the course or they just go through the course by themselves?
I only have a few full online courses. And those they have the right to send me questions, but we don't have a specific like set up, have a conversation. I'm actually tentatively planning on creating a co-working and co-support type space for people in the fall or early winter, where that'll be more of a membership where I give people guidance and help them get to their next step closer to thriving, whatever that might be. One of the big things in the US is you do have to stay within all of the magic numbers. And I help people, like I do coaching services specifically to help people get on the benefits and figure out financially getting themselves.
So you do the word problem math in the disability policy is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
help people.
you're basically a tutor of the word problem for the
Yep.
math in
Yep.
disability benefits. You
And
start
the
with the
adjacent
United States, but
programs.
it's adaptable for the rest of the world. Perfect.
Beautifully put. But yeah, and every chapter of the book has resources and and links to get more information, because I want people to be able to do those, popping down the right rabbit holes and getting to the details they need quickly. A lot of these things do change, and so I also have those reference pages on my website, and I'm putting updates as I hear about them, because especially with the current administration, a lot of things that haven't changed in a very long time are changing. So I'm trying to help people navigate that issue too, as I
That's
face
the
it.
jarring part because
Yeah.
I've been on disability here since 2011. It pays
Mhm.
my rent automatically every single month.
Mhm.
And it pays my electric bill every month, like
Mhm.
automatically, because I still rent control apartment. My expenses are still low. It's still $100 a day to live here. Anyhow, they make a policy that changes that safety net. I can't go to grandma. Grandma doesn't want me there. So like I am SOL. Like it's that. Yeah, because then you're the dependent of strangers and GoFundMe's and charities helping you if they change so much of it
Yeah.
that you don't have them to catch you, like the government policies and administrations keeping things in place to keep you at the bare minimum, not living in a tent outside. Like it,
Yeah.
that is the most.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm supposed to write a letter to complain because you're literally like, great, I'm disabled. Then you tell me I'm certified disabled and I'm approved. Then I have to follow all your rules. And then you can just rip it away from me.
And that's what a lot of Americans are facing right now. And it's right now, there's nothing that says we're going to lose benefits, but the tendencies from the administration potentially point that way. The big, beautiful bill is going to make huge cuts to Medicaid, and most people do not understand how much of an underpinning Medicaid is for the disabled community. People are going to die.
Yeah.
Like,
And don't come to
it's not
Canada to get
mean.
your prescriptions. We need our prescriptions too. Like,
Well, but I'm not even just talking about not being able to afford your prescriptions. I'm talking about people who need home health aides not being able to get one anymore. I'm talking about then dying from the resulting neglect. Those kinds of things.
yeah, I know it's like I made it sound lighter than it is because it's
But
traumatic.
it
I
is.
have this thing, I make jokes of things that are very dark and hard to handle.
Fair enough. And it's
I
just,
I know it's hard. I'm
yeah,
trying not to emotionally get involved with it. I will cry. This is
fair
how I
enough.
deflect the crying because
Okay. No, that's very fair, because it's, and like, I'm trying not to think about it too much for the same kind of reasons.
yeah,
I'm trying to protect my mental health. I'm acknowledging the problem, and I'm acknowledging that there's really not much I can do about it right
and we
now.
talked about this very difficult subject for 90 minutes.
Yep.
So
And
you're probably tapped out on spoons. I'm turning into a pumpkin. This has been the most educational, fun thing that's not just me by myself talking about it. So,
no, and I think it's really important to be able to have that sharing, because one of the big problems with being disabled is we're so often siloed off and made to feel alone, whether or not we are, and we lose out on so many social opportunities because we have this identity of disabled hanging over our heads, or are being accused of lying about being disabled if we don't appear to be disabled enough.
yeah, that is the most difficult part of everything because we go through our symptoms, we go through our diagnosis, the medical system. We didn't talk about the medical system, but like people, once you're diagnosed and then you accept your diagnosis, then it's like, how do I manage to be well, relatively well, whatever that is?
Yep.
Then you're told, like I was told to apply for disability in the psych ward. They're like, it'll be good for you. I'm like, and then I'm like, no, it wasn't.
I would never tell someone that disability is good for them, but I will say, under certain circumstances, it is the best of bad options.
Yeah, that
Like, that's the framing.
it was packaged like a timeshare.
Yeah, no,
as
definitely
as as the
not.
worst thing of like, you think it's a good idea. They fed me, they gave me my medications, like they said it was getting better,
Mm,
and then I want to get back to work and they're like, no, focus on treatment first. So I did. And then, oh yeah, I wasn't paying the rent and almost being evicted. So then disability came in exactly at the time you either get kicked out by a sheriff. So I was squatting in my apartment
oh, no.
because I already got the court order that I had to be evicted. Then
Right.
I had to send my landlord back to court to pay the rent to keep my apartment. Then disability put it into their pay direct conservatorship type of
Mm,
program where they would pay rent automatically. And I didn't get out of it till last year. So from 2011 until 2024, disability was paying my bills automatically on my behalf. I
right.
just had to double check. If it increased, the rent increased every year because it's market rent.
Hmm.
Then finally, Canada Post Strike changed up my stability because every time we would go in Canada Post Strike for the mail services here,
Hmm.
my rent check wouldn't get paid. Then my landlord thinks I didn't pay my rent. Then they're sending me the letter of non-payment of rent to potentially send me to eviction again. I
Oh
couldn't
no.
have that happen again. So I hyper vigilant, always on this extra paranoia level of, are you going to cut me off? Is this why you're cutting me off? Why, like, and then you can't
Right.
get your caseworker because legally here caseworkers have 2 weeks to get in contact with you. So I was basically, luckily I live close to my disability office so I could walk there and walk back. But
Hmm.
for 2 weeks of making sure, hey, no, I'm not evicted, I paid the rent, it's over here. They had the check the whole time in the office at Pure Later and they didn't open it. Then they sent me a letter and apologized. And then now everything is stable ish. But
Yeah.
I'm also, back my mind is like, no, we can't settle. We can't get comfortable. It's
No,
so,
there's always something, and and for us, it's we're on a financial edge so much of the time that everything kind of there's there's tripwires everywhere,
mhm.
and if you make a misstep, blows up in your face.
Sometimes it's not that bad. Sometimes it's
Sometimes,
just like they put my file on hold. July just happened. They put my file on hold. 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm ready to go into the office, call this person, talk to, like I was ready. Luckily, it was all handled by 10 a.m. all by email. So
it's wonderful when things actually work, isn't it?
it's a weird lottery type of system of when it works out really well for what you need it for, or when you have to go into advocacy mode and know your rights and know the policies and know, talk to Carlos, my backup worker, and not my regular worker. There's, which is great. You're giving them one of the playbooks of instructions to start. Then there's you with your coaching and services, and you may expand, you may not, you may just have a YouTube channel of questions. I don't know. This was fun.
This
I'm
one,
excited, but we have to end because I don't want to talk for 2 hours.
fair enough.
And yeah, we covered everything. We did. I know we did because it's in my face. We did.
We
And then now
covered
I get
things.
to say thank you so much for joining us on Disabled Wealthy today. Your insights on thriving while disabled, navigating the American disability system, and truly taking charge of our lives have been incredibly powerful and inspiring. We deeply appreciate you sharing your personal journey, the vital work of your organization, and the wisdom from your books. You've truly shown us that while the system may be broken, yeah, it's a three-legged stool and one of the legs are broken.
At
We can
least.
absolutely thrive despite that. To our incredible audience, thank you for tuning in and being a part of this vital conversation. Remember, the journey to disable wealthy is about empowerment, action, and redefining what's possible. It's about recognizing structural ableism and finding positive solutions within our lives. If you were inspired by Allison's message today, please visit her website at thrivingwhiledisabled.com and get a copy or two of her books. And you can find all the links in the YouTube description. I have to move it over there. And they were, and the QR code on the screen, I think it goes to your website.
This one goes to
Oh, that's
your.
mine. That's the Buy Me a Coffee for Minnie.
Mhm.
And then the other one is Allison to her website.
Yep.
And I'm going to stop talking there because there's too much to read. So thank you again, Allison, and thank you for everyone